Exactly how many beers was it you had after that game on Tuesday, Brendan? Where did yous go on Tuesday night? Because that don't look like one beer to me. That was a 3-day bender in Bavaria going off that performance. Questions to be asked. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back and welcome to one of the very few match reactions we've had to do this season when it comes to Celtic losing a game of football, because the full-time score at Easter Road this afternoon, Hibs 2, Celtic 1. It's another L in that loss column for Celtic. Only the second time, in fact, in the league this season we've lost a game after the Ibrox defeat in early January. And one that was well deserved this afternoon. Let's just call it how it is. Let's just cut the BS straight away. You know, Celtic deserved to lose this afternoon after a particularly bad first half performance. We just looked very, very shoddy. I don't know. We didn't look right. It didn't look like the Celtic we've been used to seeing on a regular basis this season. It didn't look like the Celtic we've seen on Tuesday night at the Allianz Arena. It just looked like a Celtic side who were down and out from the first whistle. We did pick it up in the second half, don't get me wrong. We were a lot better. We created more chances, and maybe with a bit more luck on our side or better VAR, we could have had a draw in today's game. But, you know, you've got to put the excuses for the side for a moment. Hibs were far better. They were, and I'll just say it how it is, because they were the first half in particular all over Celtic. They looked like the team who wanted it more, the team who had more quality. Celtic looked asleep. There were some players running around like they were towing a caravan, some that looked like they had cement round their boots. We were just dreadful, and we got what we deserved today, and that's 0 points. So Hibs can go away and continue their now 13 match unbeaten run, while Celtic have work to do heading into Tuesday night to make sure that we don't drop any more points before the next derby game. You know, you don't want to lose a big lead that you have over your rivals. You know, as things stand, it looks as though Celtic will now only be 10 points clear, which is still a great position to be in. 10 points clear going into March. The league is done, and it's a great position to be in, but you don't want to watch that drop. You don't want to give Rangers the motivation, the momentum coming to Celtic Park, knowing that Celtic have hit any bad form. But, you know, you think of the games we've got coming up now. Got Aberdeen on Tuesday night, who admittedly haven't been in great form, but still can cause a problem. Last time we played them at Celtic Park, we dropped points. You've got St Mirren away from home next weekend, a ground where Celtic have dropped points plenty of times before. You've got Hibs in the Cup, where we've just lost to Hibs. And then you've got Rangers. So, you know, you've got tough games coming up, and you've got to be prepared for them. So we've got to move on from today pretty quickly. We've got to find out what went wrong. There's certain individuals whose performances were unacceptable, especially in that first 45. We'll try and cover it all, but generally a disappointing day for Celtic. But before I get started, I just want to say one thing. Today was bad. Today was bad. But I want to start off this video with saying losing needs to come with perspective. And I don't think today's post-match reaction is as bad as the post-match reaction to the Rangers defeat back in January. I think that one hurt even more so because it was to them and it was 3-0, it was so heavy, and we went in as heavy favourites. Today it's not as bad, but especially when half time came along, we were 2-0 down this afternoon. It seemed a lot of people were getting very, very angry at what they were seeing, and rightfully so, but you need perspective. I've seen the same people who said Tuesday night was an example of how this is one of the best Celtic teams we've seen in decades, to then the same people saying today that it's a team that needs ripped up and started again. You need perspective. Losing happens in football. It's a sore one to take, but we move on. Just like we moved on after that terrible performance against Rangers at the start of January. You know, these come and go in football. And that's what I just urge of anybody before they start crying about certain individuals or screaming at the manager or saying that we're not good enough. There's obviously things that are wrong, but take it with perspective, please. It's not that difficult. We don't need to be reactionary. We know that some players will have to go and give their head a wobble after today, get themselves into Lennoxtown first thing tomorrow and make sure they go into Tuesday ready to go, but take losing with perspective. We are off the back of a game on Tuesday where we went toe-to-toe with one of the biggest teams in Europe, where we were seconds away from beating one of the biggest teams in Europe and going to extra time. It's not an excuse for losing today, absolutely not. We were dreadful and it deserves to be called out, but please just look at it with perspective. So let's talk about the football, because that's what we're here to do. First half, as I mentioned, we were just dreadful. We were so bad. It was actually kind of painful to watch. It hurt to watch us. And I said yesterday that we couldn't use the excuse of being leggy or tired or anything like that. Hibs have played a lot of football as well recently. They've been playing midweek weekend as of Celtic. Now, I know you can talk about the levels of teams that were playing. Celtic have been playing Bayern Munich and having to travel to Germany, and a lot more intensity involved in that, a lot more just fatigue in general that comes with it. But it's still not an excuse when you're the top team by such a distance in this country. You know, we are how many points clear of Hibs? 20, 30 points clear of them. So it shouldn't be used as an excuse. It doesn't absolve Celtic from how poor they were in that opening 45. We looked as though we didn't even want to be there in the opening 45 minutes of the game. Hibs really impressed me with the intensity that they brought to the first half, with the energy that they were chasing every second ball with. They were winning everything. In fact, their performance, and I think it was Neil Lennon or Rory Hamilton who said it on commentary, it was almost as if they used Celtic's performance from Munich on Tuesday night as the blueprint for what they'd done in that opening 45 minutes. I remember specifically highlighting, I think we all did in fact, we all specifically highlighted how good Johnston and Schlupp were in the full-back areas on Tuesday at the Allianz. That's what was happening today with the full-backs of Hibs. Kuhn and Maida just couldn't get any joy because every second ball was being won by those full-backs. They were going in for every tackle. They were closing off every pass. And it wasn't just their full-backs, it was their whole team. They were just a whole lot hungrier than Celtic. And we just looked sloppy. Now, a few people in that first half are getting absolutely stinking, and in fact, I think Brendan Rodgers seen it himself when you look at his half-time subs. But in particular, the two that are getting it really, really bad is Adamida and Greg Taylor. Now, Greg Taylor, I'm not going to jump to the extremes here and say I think that he's chucked it. I do think Tuesday was a big indication of where things stand with Celtic and Taylor, the fact that we did drop him for Schlupp. Yeah, he came back in today, but I don't know if Taylor's just done mentally. The performance today would maybe suggest so, but he was so bad. And we can't have that every time Taylor plays between now and the end of the season. So I hope he realises that, and I hope it's not a case of him chucking it. That's not me accusing him of that, but I think that some people might think that mentally he's gone from Celtic. And Tuesday might be a big influence on that. If he's thinking, oh, you dropped me for Munich, I'm not going to give you my 100%. Taylor was one of the few players on that park today who got a rest midweek. So he should have looked good. He looked terrible. He looked slow. He looked unarsed. He looked like a man down, to be quite honest, on that left-hand side. And, they were getting all that joy. Martin Boyle down the wing, whoever else was coming over on that side of the pitch, were just getting joy out of Greg Taylor. He was very, very poor. Adamida, a guy who I endlessly defend, and I know that people have already said on Twitter they're looking forward to hearing my criticism of him today in that first half, which I will give him because he was rank rotten. He was terrible, and it's the type of performance that really disappoints me because I feel in the last month, especially since Kyogo's left the club, he's stepped up. He's stepped up big time. He's scored goals. He's played really well in Europe as that kind of physical force up front. Today he looked unarsed, as I said about Taylor. He looked slow. He was running about with concrete on his feet, man. And don't get us started on the situation where he could have squared the ball and ends up ruining a huge opportunity for Celtic. It was really bad, and it's annoying because I feel like he starts to win Celtic fans over and then he just brings it all back to the start. Now, of course, I still sit here supporting him because I'm a huge Adamida fan, but these are the games you need him to step up. And I get, might be shattered, but he's a professional footballer. And he didn't play the whole game on Tuesday. So there's no excuse for Adamida to play the way that he played today because it looked as though he didn't want to try. And there's a reason that him and Taylor were both hooked at half-time. They weren't good enough. I think every Celtic fan, a Celtic fan with half a brain, could have seen that the logical substitutions at half-time were to bring on Jeffrey Schlupp at left-back, to bring on Jota and play Maida through the middle, and both of the substitutions, they worked. We did see an improvement in the second half with those changes, but the first half, we were so bad. But this is the thing, right? For as much as it's easy for us to come on here and go, Taylor was dreadful, Ida was dreadful, and for us to give them Doug's abuse, they're not the only culprits. The manner in which we concede both goals is very poor, and I don't think that they're specifically Adamida or Greg Taylor problems either. The problem with the first half was every player was as bad as each other. Okay, maybe Ida and Taylor were a bit worse off, but Trusty was pish. He was getting bullied. He looked like, remember back in the day when Lyndon Dykes would play up against Christopher Jullien and we were saying that Jullien couldn't handle a physical striker. That was the vibes I was getting off Trusty today. Once again, a player who's been playing really well recently, winning Celtic fans over. Kind of brings it back to scratch. Now you've got folk on Twitter saying that he's, comparing him with Marvin Comper. Somehow, once again, perspective needed, guys. But trust, he was terrible. Johnston was looking weak on the right-hand side in the first half. Callum McGregor looked like a man down. I've used that phrase already. I know I'm repeating a lot of the same phrases and cliches that I'm using here. But McGregor was absolutely dreadful. Looked so weak in the game. Looked absolutely done in and knackered. He was trying to turn his guy and just giving it straight back to Hibs. His passing was off. Everybody in that pitch in the first half was pretty poor. Now, I know there was a couple of standouts, but we're going to put the same targets under the cosh here. And for some, that might be rightfully the case. But if we're going off that opening 45 minutes, the whole team deserves to have it stinking. They were bad. Really bad. The football we were trying to play was bad. The defending was the weakest I've seen it in a long time. In fact, I would go as far to say that defending in that opening 45 was worse than the defending at Ibrox in the 3-0 game. We just looked so weak and disinterested. So we needed the subs, we needed the changes. Sadly, when you're 2-0 down though at Easter Road, you've got a fucking mountain to climb. We picked up in the second half. We were a lot better, but as I said, I think that the mountain was maybe just too steep for us. The biggest problem is, and it's going to be one of the huge talking points coming away from today's game, was that ball out of play. Because you could argue that Celtic were robbed of a goal. I think that the thing that Celtic have against them in this game is I don't believe the referee had a particularly good game on either side. I think that he was really bad with some of the decisions for Celtic, but he was also equally as bad with some of the decisions for Hibs. I just thought he had a genuinely poor game. I'm trying to take my Celtic fan glasses off here. And these, I was going to say green tinted, but Hibs were green as well. I'm trying to take my Celtic tinted specs off here and look at it as even and possible as I can, because that's the purpose of this channel. He had a really poor game today. Celtic are done out of maybe a perfectly good goal. Now, from my understanding, the whole point in this VAR and the ball going out of play, and if a goal comes from it, is you need to definitively prove that the ball was out. Otherwise, you can't get rid of the goal. Now, that was the basis of that was the knowledge I had pre-hand of this game. I've not done any research after the game. I'm going off that. I did try and Google, couldn't find anything. But my basis was, if you can't conclusively prove that the ball was out of play, you need to give the goal. Now, going off the footage that they showed us during the game, that isn't conclusive footage of the ball being out, because Johnston's covering the ball. You can't see if the ball's out of play. We don't have the goal line technology required to get conclusive data from that either. So what are we going off with here? Are we going off are we trying to appease the home crowd? Are we trying to appease supporters of other teams that believe that Celtic get better decisions? Who are we trying to appease here? Because without conclusive evidence, Celtic have been given a decision that is not even arguably, but factually in the wrong. And it's done Celtic out of a goal. Now, let me caveat all of that by saying, I don't think it absolves Celtic of this result today. I don't think we deserve to win. And to be honest, maybe that was the juju. Maybe that's what had to happen in that moment to give Hibs what they deserve from today's game. I don't know. But Celtic have been done out of a perfectly good goal, unless the SFA come out and prove otherwise. Now, I know that they have their VAR review show. Willie Collum comes out, he talks to Gordon Duncan, and we get all their talk and all the rest of it. So I'm really intrigued to see what they say if it gets brought up in that. But unless there's hidden cameras at Easter Road that we didn't see clips from during the presentation of today's game, there is nothing to suggest that that ball was definitively out of play. And the linesman didn't call the ball out of play. So Celtic's goal should technically stand. But bonkers stuff. Absolutely bonkers stuff. But, you know, maybe that was just what Celtic deserved from how poorly they played. Other than that, in the second half, it was a really big upgrade on the performance from the first. But just, you know, it was just too hard. Hibs defended well. You've got to give credit to them in that regard. You know, they made the game tough for Celtic, especially when we got that goal back. And it was a really fluky goal to get. But we were deserving of it, the way that we were playing in the build-up. But they held out, and they just made it difficult for us to find any other route to scoring. I don't get why Celtic keep putting balls in the air. It just doesn't work, and there's a problem at Celtic. I brought this up after the first leg of the Bayern game at Celtic Park. I don't think there's a worse team in Europe for trying to score goals from high crosses. We just can't do it, and we need to stop sending these balls and lobbing these balls into the box when nobody's winning them. Especially when, and Ida was, Ida had just as much of a chance as fucking getting to them. But especially when Ida's off the park, and we've got Maida in the middle and all the rest of it. If they're tightly marked and we're chasing the game, we're just not going to get it. Our goal came from a ball that landed at Maida's feet. Get the ball to players' feet. I just don't get why we keep trying it, because we're hoping for luck, and it's just not coming our way because these defenders that are playing for the other side, they're bigger than us, and we're just not getting any joy. Jota really should be doing better with that opportunity he had. The fact he doesn't square it is criminal. It's as bad as Ida in the first half, in my opinion, and I'm not going to just say that it's not because I love Jota. Both of them are really, really poor decisions, and yeah, I guess you could say off Rocky Bashiri's not there, he scores it. Guess what? He's there, and if he squares it to Kuhn, you're going to score a goal. So we didn't take the chances that we did make. We didn't make enough chances. 8 minutes gets added on, and the game was too stop-start, and it's gone at that point. When the game's just stopping and starting through people dropping down with Hutton or the ball going out of play or whatever it is, that's when the game's away from you. You can't get into a rhythm. You can't find the momentum to kind of charge on, and we lose the game. What else is there to be said? We lost the game. And we need to pick it up on Tuesday night, quite frankly. Listen, I'm not going to act irrational. I'm not going to act totally insane about today's result. It stings, it hurts. I don't like losing in any fashion. Whether you're battered, whether it's narrow, whether it's a last minute goal. I just don't like losing. So it hurts. But listen, it won't derail our season. I'm still confident this Celtic side go and win the treble. And we go from there. What I hope it does do is it highlights where we need strengthened in the summer. And that's what these results maybe carry. And I hate putting it like this because I don't want to sound like an apologist of sorts, or I don't want to sound like I'm not taking a loss seriously. But I think that the only silver line that I can take from these games is it does underline that there is still work to be done, and big work to be done. We don't have that backup striker to come on and change the game. We don't. So people go, well, Maida played through the middle. He's a left winger. He's played at the left wing since the day he came to Celtic. So you need these players, you need quality and depth, and hopefully that highlights it to the Celtic board. But that's a problem that I guess we'll tackle closer to the summer. Anyway, it's a loss for Celtic, a rare loss. Keep in mind, Celtic will still probably be 10 points clear at the top of the table after today. You win some, you lose some. And I know for some, they're not used to it. And don't get me wrong, all of us haven't been used to it for the last 10, 15 years. But yeah, you just got to move on and win your next game. It's as simple as that. Right, like and subscribe. See you all next time.